I'd like to welcome each and every individual to the Voices of Integrity podcast for Top Gun Sales Bootcamp Training. And this is going to be an interesting podcast, a very fascinating one, because in sales, it's about consistency, it's about discipline. Consistency, discipline. And what about when life happens? Like, what about when life happens? So, we'll get to that because I think it's important to understand that. Nora, what you got?
So when leads come in and to determine if it's like a, so to speak, a high quality lead, you look at their biggest challenge and stuff, but how do you determine based off of that if it's a high quality lead or if it's someone that you should dish off to somebody else?
Okay, so this is where it's hard. You're in a hard situation, good situation, but hard. And so, what you're looking at is why are you dishing it off? So it's some like in a sales manager, if you're a producing sales manager, so that's called a producing sales manager, where you actually do production and you actually go ahead and sell. You do both. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
A non-producing sales manager is you don't make any money in sales. All you're doing is managing. Typically, you can't, typically, you need at least 10 people, 10 salespeople, at least 10 to 20 salespeople before you become a non-producing sales manager. So typically, a sales manager will maybe make 10% override um, of it. And so you need 10 of them to make the same amount that your salespeople will make. If you go ahead and have 20 of them, you make twice as much. Now, those numbers can vary and whatever, but that's the general rule. And so when you're a producing sales manager, you want to look at why are you dishing the lead. So your box three, track 100% of the lead. So, the lead comes in, identify targets, and then you develop and deliver a message, and then you track 100% of the leads. And then that lead, who does it get dished off to? So what's your number one thing in dishing it to somebody? Like what's your number one decision making factor? Anybody know?
Not sure.
Jenny, Becky?
I would say if it's something that they can manage or they can do, it's at their level. And then if you also have other things that you can hire dollar productive things you can focus on.
Yeah, so it's closing the lead. Like you have to close the lead. Like, can they close the lead? And if they can close the lead, there's other factors involved. So you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself. So you need to go ahead and have it. But a good leader is going to dish off and they're going to earn less money in the short term. In the long term, they will because people will trust them, people will be appreciative of them. And so when I was a producing manager, the president of the company, he still did some production. He had a friend, and it was maybe, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000 commission. And maybe it was 3,000. So $3,000 to $5,000 commission. So it's a big sale. And it was a friend of the president, and he went ahead and dished it to me. And I'm like, wow, he didn't have to do this. He didn't have to dish it to me. And I was very appreciative of that. Meant a lot to me. So there was no question I needed money. So he was trusting me that I was going to do a really good job with the lead because it was a personal friend of his. And I did. And it was a hard one. And so, I mean, intense. This was a stock trader. So that's a great story, by the way. Anyways, so the number one thing is can you close the sale? Can the person you're dishing it to close the sale? So Kenny's absolutely right. Do they have the capability to go ahead? It's like fishing. Do they have the capability of bringing in the fish? If they don't, they're going to get pulled off the boat and into the ocean, and the swordfish are going to eat them. Yeah, you don't want to do that. Um, but there's a whole lot of gray. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. So you're going to lose probably by dishing leads if you're the best salesperson. Like when I dish leads to you guys, you guys are going to lose some of the sales. That's part of it. And as long as the company can survive, you do that. You take the short-term losses, but you'd still want to produce the sale. So you might come alongside of them or whatever like that. And so that's one on dishing leads. You as an air traffic controller, you go ahead and take some and you give some. You take some and you give some. Now, on the biggest challenge, you just look at it and what you'll tell. Like, what are they saying? If they're talking about like time management, like if they say, I need more time, that's a low level. Everybody says that. If they say, I have stress in my life or my marriage or my kids or something like that, there's a good chance they're not able to afford it. Action vision. But you can be wrong. That's why humility in sales is so important. Like, I am absolutely confident this person is going to close the sale, and they don't. So humility prevents from being emotionally devastated. I'm absolutely positive this person can't afford and won't go on action vision, and they do. But the only way you know that is to pursue things you're confident that are not going to succeed. So when you pursue somebody, you always pursue them to help them, always pursue them, giving them your best. You don't, so we're going to give them. So sometimes you give low quality leads to people just to test them or to give them experience. Are they going to handle the lead well? And so if you're air traffic controller, you want to make sure you can trust your people you're giving leads to. So high level things are high level examples of high level biggest challenges are how do I prioritize my leads? How do I prioritize my time? So you look at it, if it's general, if it's personal, if it's, you like any lead you get, you just like any 3 minute, any one of them, you email me immediately to see how fast you can do it. See if you can get to it before I do. See it before I do. And you go ahead and you say, um, low quality lead, medium quality lead, high quality lead. And so if you just pay attention, you can feel the energy of the biggest challenge or love help on. And is this a high level person or a low level? The higher the level, probably the more money they're making. And they can afford action vision. So, have we told you guys the 3 things to make a good quality, to have high quality leads? The 3 requirements?
I think we did.
What are they?
Their affordability
Okay.
and the decision maker, or if it's a decision maker influencer, and their ability or speed to move forward.
Okay, close. So you want them in order too. The order is important. So the first is, are they a decision maker? Now, if they're not the decision maker, they may be a key influencer. So you got that one right. So are they the decision maker? So that's the first. You want to get to decision makers. So that should have been one of the first things I taught you guys. And then you guys should be quizzed on it, tested on it. So how are you guys going to make most of your money?
Developing people.
Yeah. So to develop people, these things should be put into a test. There should be tests. And maybe sometime in the future, you scrunch it together. What took you guys 4 weeks or 8 weeks or 4 months to learn, you may tighten it up with future attendees, future participants, future developers. So number 1 is going to be, are they decision maker? And you got to be careful. Like a good example is with the Amish. More times than not, the wife is a silent partner. She's the one that's making the decision. Why would she be the one making the decision rather than the husband? Often the husband's made poor decisions in the past. So she, you know, so why is it that Rosanna doesn't get involved in business decisions like financial? The amount of money we have invested into the business over the years, and it's not because I haven't lost money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, literally, literally, like $500,000. Like, why doesn't she go ahead and control that? It's because I clean up my own messes. It's because I learn. It's because, and so if a husband doesn't learn, if he can't learn, if he just keeps making stupid decisions, well, then the wife is going to jump in and say, yeah, no, she just will because she has to, and so number one is decision maker. So you got to get the decision maker, especially if you're bringing in like somebody like me, make sure that the decision makers are there. Now, the 30-minute, they don't have to be because the $285, typically a husband can get away with that. But Action Vision, not a chance. The wife is going to be involved in situations or a business partner. You got to get the decision maker. Number two is the ability to invest. Do they have the ability to invest? Somebody who's making $500,000 may not be able to invest because they're spending, $600,000. Somebody that's making $20,000 a year may be able to invest, especially if she's a woman. If she's married, that 20,000 may be extra, might be extra money for her. Where a husband, if her husband's making enough money, she can often invest because her money is, her money is her money. So that's how they work it in the marriage. And so don't, and they can invest not only through financial, but they can do it. I don't like when they do it through debt, but some have, and it's not wrong, but they have savings, they have other means to be able to invest. So the second is going to be ability to invest. Can they afford what you're doing? The third is going to be sense of urgency. How much pain do they have? Which was kind of what Kenny said, like how fast they want to sense of urgency. So the pain is people are motivated by two things: avoiding pain, gaining pleasure. And people are more motivated to avoid the pain than to gain the pleasure, which is why this is why we ask the biggest challenge first. Now, we're starting to get geared up, not looking forward to it because of you girls. That you girls are going to go after the big fish. And so I don't know when we'll do little pieces of training on that. Becky may have more today on it. I don't know. And so the big fish, so I've said for years, you don't get where I've gotten, with going after the big fish without doing a lot of things right. I mean, I'm telling you the stories I have about pursuing the big fish. It's insane. And you don't walk away with what I've walked away with without doing a lot of things wrong. And um, so anyways, so those are the three things: decision maker, ability to invest, and sense of urgency. The sense of urgency is the thing that the salesperson has the most control over. And the driver is probably the best at that. Any ideas why?
So they can communicate the future.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So the expressive has an advantage. The expressive has an advantage because they can get people pumped up, excited. Wow, can they get them excited? I mean, and they have fun and goof around, and they'll just do it out of sheer excitement. So the expressive has that ability. Just get them pumped up, have fun. The amiable has the ability to connect and get them to trust you. And the analytic has the ability to go ahead and to help people understand, but so each of them can overdo it. The driver, though, can see the future. And that's why they're so powerful in pain. If you can magnify somebody's pain, if you can see the future, magnify the pain, connect it in and say, this is what, and comes back to personal stuff in marriage counseling. If you have a husband, often it's a husband, could be the wife, but often the husband who's got an alcohol problem, what you do is you go ahead and help the husband realize and see the future. Like he can be a high functioning alcoholic, like can be very successful in business, his career, his wife is pleasant, kids are pleasant, everything looks good. He's a high functioning alcoholic is what they call it. But eventually alcoholism, it's going to take its hold and he's going to lose his job. He's going to lose his wife and his kids. His life is going to be miserable. But he doesn't see that. And often, sadly, his wife doesn't either until it's too late. So if you see the future, if you can communicate, this is your future. Like not having time, stress, any biggest challenge, it gets magnified over time. If you can show that, that increases the pain. When you increase the pain, it increases the sense of urgency, and that moves them forward. So that connects back into what, Patrick and I, the three motivators: integrity, love, and fear. And so Patrick had said, he always thought fear was negative. He's like, your fear can be really positive. It's what keeps you alive is fear. And so it's really fascinating. So good work, Nora. That's a high level question. That's great. So what you do is practice. It's balls against the walls. It's like pickleball or lacrosse. You just build your reflexes. And so every biggest challenge you try to get to before I do. And you say, Mark, I think this is, 1 to 10 based on their biggest challenge and what you'll do is you'll get better at it. And you'll see that's a moneymaker. That's a moneymaker. That's a moneymaker. That one's not. That one's not. And so your highest level resource, you want to go ahead and give them the best leads. Your highest sales. Now, you might match them up, right? You might match them up based on personalities. And often it's going to be the one that's natural. So analytic on analytic, driver on driver, expressive on expressive, and amiable on amiable. But you'll get them to like each other naturally. But will they fall in love? Often not. And often that's what it takes for sales. Fascinating. It's just, this stuff's so cool. And you guys make it cool because your head's in the game. You're like, okay, what do I need to do? Even when there's distractions. Becky, what you got?
So the biggest, I want to go after Renegade.
Yep.
What booklet do I send with my husband, and who should he give it to?
So I played pickleball with a pro. She's actually the daughter of the president and founder of Grand Design.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
After I played with her, and she kicked my butt with, my partner Virgil. She and her sister kicked our butts. After I played with her, I said, "What suggestions would you have for me?" And she laughed and she said, "2, you need to be patient." I said, "Okay." And she said, "You got to get a pickleball paddle, not from the 1990s. What? You making fun of my paddle, girl? And so you need to be patient, Becky. Like you can go in, bull in a china closet. Like you can go in when you're fishing for bluegill. It's fine. There's lots of them out there. You miss one. but going after the big ones, you often don't get a second chance.
Right.
And so you have to be patient. The statistical probability is very slim that you're going to get a big sale this year. Those
Right.
sales cycles are so high, so long that one mistake. Oh, it's interesting. So there's this guy that owned. I've never heard this before. This is awesome. I don't know what RV company he owned, but he started an RV company, very successful. Sold it to venture capitalists. These are the guys with big money. They don't know what they're doing. And 5 years later, they came back to him and said, "Do you want to buy it back?" He said, "Let's talk." He bought it back for 3% of what he sold it for. Dang. So I found that out. Like I've been playing pickleball with him for, I don't know, a year, 2 years, and I didn't know that. And coincidentally, that one time that Nora comes and plays pickleball, like I find that information out. I'm like, jeepers, that's kind of interesting. So, anyways, I talked to him yesterday. And I said, so he said, yeah, was talking about everything. And he said, yeah, the labor market. I said, oh, did you have Amish workers? He's like, oh, not a chance. Yeah, no, no. Like, really? He's like, yeah, none of them. Like, really? He's like, yeah, we tried that. It didn't work. I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, why? He's like, because they all move in packs. Like one of them will get ticked. We tried it. One of them in the group, they all move in groups, and one of them gets ticked and they all leave on you. Like, jeepers, that's interesting. Like, huh? Never heard that story before. So I gave you an assignment. Do you remember what the assignment was?
No.
So, Nora or Kenny, do either of you remember what the assignment I gave Becky was? I think you were both on. So in sales, one of your greatest tools, one of your greatest weapons, one of your greatest things is listening skills. You have to listen. You have to listen like you've never listened before. Like you have to listen like a deaf person listens. So I said, go into a spreadsheet and find everything you can, put all of the RV factories.
Oh, yeah.
RV factories. So you need all of them. Because what they have is they have, like in Ford versus Ferrari, they have analytics. And so they have accountants and attorneys, and their whole job is to not spend money and to go ahead and not get sued. So they don't want any new ideas. And so the accountants and the attorneys will destroy you. They will kill your sales cycle. They'll go ahead and make it to where you do all this work and then you don't get paid. Oh, they'll brutalize you on everything. So you might be thinking, well, you all might be thinking, so how do you get around the accountants and the attorneys?
Through Mark.
Knowledge, experience, doing it the wrong way. What you do is you pit them against each other. So if it's a new idea, a new concept, which it kind of is, not 100%, but it's kind of a new concept. It's kind of a new thing. So I talked to Randy yesterday and I said, hey, you own an RV factory. I have two projects I'm working on. And you met Nora, last time she was here. Yeah. And I said, so one is to raise funds. And he says, so what are you doing on that? And I said, well, it's not just giving the nonprofit. They have value they can bring to. He's like, that's interesting. Like he hadn't heard of that, thought of that before. And I said, two, Nora and one of her friends, Becky, they're building a business and they want to go into the RV factories and, they want to bring value and stuff like that. So there's two things there. So if Nora hadn't gone and played, so she went ahead and when she went and played, it was good. When she played, she said, like, making money. It's not a quick money. If there was, I probably would have found it. But maybe she could. I don't know. I'm not like that would be even better if she played pickleball and she found money that was just laying on the ground there. It's probably a longer sales cycle. And that's what big customers are. You got to go ahead and balance. Like if you don't make it through the short term, there is no long term. So you might only put 20% of your time in the big sale and pursuing the, the whale, so to speak. And so what you do is you pit them against each other subtly. You have to do it subtly. Oh yeah, we're talking to, Grand Design, and who's their arch enemy? Who's
Forest
Grand
River.
arch enemy?
Forest River.
Actually, it's not. That's an old time enemy.
Brinkley?
It's
Oh, Brinkley.
Brinkley.
Yeah.
It's Brinkley. Man, those two, there's battle. Like they are battling each other. Brinkley is poaching. Man does Grand Design. Boy, do they hate Brinkley. Man, do they hate him. Like, so what you do is you get two of them and you subtly go and say, oh yeah, we're talking to Brinkley. And as soon as they talk to Brinkley, the gloves are off, and they're the arch enemies. So every big company has an arch enemy, generally speaking. And you go to Brinkley and you say, yeah, we're talking to Grand Design. And so you do that, and that's how you do it. That's how you get around, because then they push the accountants aside, they push the attorneys aside and say, it's based on fear. Our arch enemy is going to get this tool, and this tool is going to go ahead and poach other people. It's going to poach other people. So that's how you do it. That's how you do it. So you don't go in just going with one. You go and line them all up, and then you decide which one you're going to go after. You get them all lined up, and you say, which one's going to go after? The one you go after, that's your primary target. You may put 60% of your resources in that. But and so, now I just have humility and say, well, Mark, maybe you're holding your back because of your own negative experiences. And so I went in like Becky was. I just went in like, hey, I'm just going in. And I actually got a long ways, like a long ways. It was insane how far I got, how fast I got, because I was in my, I was 28, 29, didn't do any better, just went in. Now, and so Becky, now that I think about it, we might do Becky strat, but first we got to put them in a spreadsheet. Like we can't just be totally reckless, maybe sort of reckless. Ooh, that gave me an idea, Becky. So I'm all about accelerating stuff and having adventure. So, but do your spreadsheet, and then I've got another idea, and you can bug me, shoot me an email, and say, hey, Mark. And so tomorrow I might be able to go ahead and do something. I might be able to do something that might go ahead and give you something that would give them, that would move things along.
Oh boy, I don't know if I like that chuckle.
It's a sweet one.
Okay.
But there's so much work that needs to be done. But anyways, that's a good thing. Kenny, what you got?
So when Alvin was at the Coffee Connection, he shared something about, leaving things at the river
Yep.
and, carrying on to work and doing the things at work and picking up things when he gets home. I guess how do you do that more so, or
It's harder for a woman than it is a man because she's more inclusive of everything. But the story was his wife and they've been married over 60 years, and his wife and him were discussing things, and she had a difference of opinion, he had a difference of opinion, and they were kind of going back and forth, and it took some time. And so he would leave for work, and then he'd go work at the sawmill. He owned a sawmill, go work at the sawmill, and then he'd come home at night, and she's all frustrated. He's like, why are you all frustrated? She's like, how come you're not? Do you not care about our marriage? And he went ahead and said, honey, you know how there's that creek? So he walked to work. And she's like, yeah. He says, when I go ahead and hit that creek, I put all my family stuff at home, and then I focus in on the sawmill. It's very hard for a woman to do that. Not much harder for a woman to do that than a man. So at the creek, he puts the family stuff and sets it down, goes across the creek and picks up all the work stuff, and then he works. And it's like he doesn't think about his wife, his marriage, his kids, all he's doing. Now, at a sawmill, that's especially true. Because you don't want your husband sawing off his hand or his head I mean, you might, but so he needs to focus in on money. But the magic of that is what most husbands don't do. Most husbands do that. Most husbands have the ability to separate and they just work. This is one reason they like working, because they just work. They feel good about themselves. Now, a wife is going to go ahead and be irritated, like, how can he work when she can't? But what he did was the magic of it is when he came back over the creek, he picked back up and then he would go back and he would talk to his wife again. Most husbands don't do that. They come home and they drink or they play or they do stuff, and the wife is dying and she's had to deal with all that stuff because she wants to be one with the husband. She wants to be in unison. And he doesn't want to deal with the conflict, the drama. He doesn't want to deal with the intensity. He doesn't want to deal with the feelings. He doesn't want to deal with it. So he tries to ignore it. And that'll destroy a marriage or unity at the minimum. And so I don't think, Kenny, it's as much. I think men are programmed to do that. And that's what makes them productive. So yesterday I was talking with a couple women that I work with, and I'm like, I just want to make money. A number of women. Like, I just want to make money. I don't want the drama. I don't, just let me make money. It's hard. So a husband, a man needs to be understand. So I understand it means a lot more. It's very meaningful for a woman to go ahead and, like, she feels disconnected. Now, if she's confident, we're going to deal with this later. We'll deal with it in the evening. We'll deal with it tomorrow. We'll deal with it. As long as she's confident he's going to deal with it, then she can get about her business. She's like, okay, we're going to deal with it. But a husband, he doesn't want to, because he just wants to feel good, and that is be productive. And then he's exhausted at work. This is why it's good for a woman to work outside the home sometime, to say work is a pain. Like, it's exhausting. Like, it can suck the very life, especially if you're working with people. Like, it's absolutely exhausting. And so the wife needs to understand the husband needs to understand the wife, and they both need to give consideration, and that's not easy. And it's not just husband and wife, it's friends. It's just friends. Friends do that too. And so women, it's different than men. It just is. And and it's hard. It's hard for women, and they need to understand it's hard for men too, but it's hard for men in a different way than it is for women. And that's okay, because they're men. Men need to understand it's hard for women, but in a very different way than it is for men. And so if you're working with men and women, they need to understand there's a difference and it's okay. And women need to go ahead and give men room, and men need to not take advantage of that and be sensitive and aware on how a woman feels. So men tend to go ahead. Don't ask me why. I'm not God. I'm not a creator. I don't know why. God just created. Even a analytic driver, that's one of the differences. They're still a woman. I'm still a man. Well, I am a man, stereotypical man. and so you can have a man that's an amiable, expressive, and so he's going to have, stereotypical, often women stuff, but he's still a man. He still is. And a woman who's an analytic, driver, she's still a woman. And so they have to understand each other to be in flow. And if she's confident he's not going to stuff it, if she's confident he's not going to go ahead and just forget it. And so that's another whole thing that we could talk about in another podcast. I think that yesterday was a brutal day for me work wise. Like it was just hard. And so, and it's messy. And if you're working with friends, it's messier. If you're working with family, it's even messier. It's just messy. And so you can have, like Alvin Miller, he said his wife would rather be in a sawmill than be in a greenhouse. I don't know. He said she would rather be in, they were Amish, so ex-Amish, now they're Mennonite. So she would rather be in a sawmill than in the sewing factory or fabric or whatever it is. So typically, sewing and stuff, women are going to like that. Men are going to like, lumber mill, but she'd rather be in that. And so, yeah, so many stories. And so how do you keep it all? How do you keep it all? And especially like Roseanne and I, 41 years, we've always worked together. We went to college together. We got married, 19, 20, and we're in college together. And we worked as night custodians together. Then we started a cleaning business and we worked that together. And so we've always worked together. Less so when we had kids because she's mostly focused on the kids. But even then, she was still involved in the business. And that's hard. But it's really cool. And you got to get better. You got to get better. And so friendships and work can be real, but they're messy. It's just hard. And so, questions on that, Kenny?
No, that makes sense.
All right, Luke, what you got? Luke, what you got? So Luke messed up. How did he mess up? And everybody else messed up too.
Not being on.
No, because it's old Christmas Day, I think, and he had told us, I think, that he wasn't going to be on. So he communicated it's a holiday for the Amish. He's Amish, and so he's not going to be on. And he told us he wasn't going to be on, so that's fine. He needs to be present even when he's not present. So you all have experienced this. Well, not Becky hasn't yet. She needs to experience this. Oh, she hasn't experienced life until she's experienced. What is that, Nora? How is Mark's present even when he's not there?
You have somebody ask a question for you.
Coffee connection. So that's what Becky needs to have. Becky needs to have like maybe next month. Like that would be great because Becky could experience what Nora experienced. Like we want to give Becky that experience. So Mark's present at Coffee Connection even when he's not there. And so Luke can be present, but he has to be intentional. So what he should have done is he should have gone ahead and had one of you ask a question for him. One of the three of you, not Becky, because she hasn't experienced it, but Kenny and Nora have both experienced it. Mark is present even when he's not physically there. Like even when I pass away at 97, I think it is. Like even when I pass, I'll still be present. You'll never be able to get rid of me. Like I will always be there. There will be a laugh or, there will be something that will trigger. There will be something that will trigger me. So far after I'm long gone, which I'm hoping is, before you all are. I've experienced that. And that sucks as a parent. And so it's not supposed to be. So I'm getting so deeply embedded into all of you guys, or even after I'm gone, I'm still going to be there. I'll be there forever with all of you. That's good for business. And so it's just good for business because you're doing life together. You're not just working, you're not just selling, you're doing life together. And that's just cool. You get pissed at each other, you get hurt by each other, and you get all clunky, and then, there's all kinds of mess in life. But that's what doing life is. It's just messy. And you fight through it. Like, this is a culture I would like. So Tom, I've seen him tear up. You guys will see me tear up a lot more than I've seen Tom tear up. I've seen Tom tear up, I think, 3 times, maybe 4. And maybe the first time I saw him tear up is when Century 21, 140,000 agents in over 70 different countries, didn't always be big. Oh, Becky, Jayco. So I met the founders, the wife, Bertha, I think it is. And I got her book, and she signed the book on Jayco. And so they just sold it not too long ago. And so, and so, um, so she's another one. So put her on the list, and she's a big fish. But yeah. So, anyways, and Nora, you should read that. You and Becky should get the book from her and get her to sign it because her husband was a pilot. He died actually in it, plane crash almost twice. Like, anyways, fascinating story. So, um, and so, so, so the culture. So, Tom, there were, I don't know, 7 franchisees. There were 7 of them, and one wasn't making it. And he came in, he says, "Listen, guys, I just got to get out." And they said, "We're not going to allow you to do it." And they pooled their money. The other 6 of them pooled their money and helped that one. And he started tearing up. Like, and this was, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago. So that's the kind of culture that I want is EVAs and LPs, especially in the LP world. It's like, and even in the community, just in it, like we're one. We're not going to allow you to die. We're not going to allow you to get out of business. No, we're not going to allow it. And they came together, and they like the loyalty that builds. And so, how do you build tremendous loyalty? So that's the kind of culture. Yeah. Nice, nice, nice. So yeah, Luke should have talked to you guys. You guys should have talked to Luke and said, "Hey, well, those that knew he wasn't going to be here, it's like, Luke, what do you have to cover?" So Luke's presence is felt even when he's not here. It's like he was here even when he wasn't here. And that's really good because that's how you can clone yourself. See, I want to teach you all how to do that, to be present even when you're not present. And there's a whole bunch of techniques to do that. So, anyways, it's been a great one. Appreciate you all.